The Now Habit by Neil Fiore. This summary is brought to you by Hook My Book. Procrastination is a habit of putting things off, usually for fear of failure or criticism. The Now Habit is a program that helps you overcome this fear and get started on tasks, regardless of how daunting they may seem. The program includes strategies for breaking the procrastination habit and becoming more productive. The Now Habit program is based on the idea that humans are motivated by a higher, or inner, self that can be accessed when we feel safe and in control. This higher self is different from the lower self that is controlled by external forces like guilt and resentment. The program provides tools to help you access the higher self, including strategies for scheduling guilt-free play, improving the quality of work, and stirring motivation. Powerful tools for overcoming procrastination. 1. Create a safety net, a psychological buffer to lessen the fear of failure. 2. Reprogram negative attitudes. By positive self-talk, you can identify your negative messages to yourself and change them to more positive phrasing. 3. Use the symptom to trigger the cure. Old habits can be used to evoke the formation of new, positive habits. 4. Guilt-free play. Leisure time can be scheduled in a way that shifts focus from work to play, leading to subconscious urges to return to work. 5. Three-dimensional thinking. By understanding how tasks are divided into smaller parts, you can conquer overwhelm and stay focused. Why do we procrastinate? In general, people learn to procrastinate because it's a way to reduce anxiety and stress. However, this can be a problem because it often leads to other problems, like not being able to do your best. When you are placed in a situation where your alternatives all seem negative, you may use procrastination to get even with those in power. Procrastination reflects your resentment at the authority who placed you in this no-win situation, and you affirm your refusal to accept the rules by speaking about the unpleasant task in the victim's mantra, "I have to." For example, Elaine is raised in a family of intense, high-energy, high achievers who constantly pressure her to be perfect. This perfectionism caused her to avoid any situation in which her performance might be evaluated, which led to procrastination. Elaine eventually learned to accept herself as being perfectly human and to forgive herself for not being perfect. Procrastination is often used to avoid facing fears of success, such as conflict, success leading to loss of friends, and the fear of ultimate failure. These fears can be paralyzing, leading the person to avoid taking any action to achieve their goals. Procrastination can be a way of avoiding these fears, but it only postpones the inevitable. Eventually, the fear will catch up with the person, and they will have to face it head-on. Most people struggle with this delayed fear of failure because they have been told that they need to achieve great things quickly to be successful. This pushes people to try harder and harder, even if they are afraid of failing, to meet these high expectations. If you have been struggling with delayed fear of failure, you may find that you need to reduce the amount of pain and threat associated with your work to overcome it. You may also need to increase the amount of guilt-free play in your schedule, increase the rewards for short periods of quality work, and put yourself in charge of reducing stress and tension. By using the Now Habit, you can overcome procrastination and achieve your goals more efficiently. Knowing how we procrastinate? The first step is to simply continue doing what you're doing already, which is generally considered to be procrastination. The second step is to learn to become aware of how and when you procrastinate. This can be done by observing yourself objectively and not judging yourself. After becoming aware of your current behavior, you will need to create a structure to focus on your commitments and manage your time. This can be done by keeping an inventory of your time and categorizing it by priority. Finally, you will need to set priorities to gain a better understanding of what is important to you and to make progress on your goals. Keeping a record of your activities and thoughts can help you to identify when you are feeling overwhelmed and distracted, and can help you to focus on specific tasks. The log can also help you to identify when you are most likely to procrastinate on specific tasks, such as tasks that require a lot of detail or tasks that are challenging to complete. Procrastination and anxiety work in 5 stages. The first step is to give yourself a task or goal that is important to you. This can be anything from getting a job to passing a test. Once you have this task, you must remember that it is not the only thing that determines your worth. You also have to remember that other things are just as important, if not more important. The next step is to understand that fear of failure is a normal response to making a mistake. However, you should not use this fear to keep you from doing your best. Instead, you should use it to motivate you to do your best. The third step is to understand that perfectionism is a way to raise your task above the ground. This makes it so that any mistakes are catastrophic. However, you should not use this to escape your task. Instead, you should use it to raise your level of anxiety and motivate you to do your best. The fourth step is to use procrastination to escape your task. This is because it makes the deadline closer and it creates time pressure. However, you should not use this to avoid your mistakes. Instead, you should use it to raise your level of anxiety and motivate you to do your best. The fifth step is to use a real threat, such as a fire or a deadline, to release yourself from perfectionism and to act as a motivator. This is because a real threat is more motivating than a hypothetical threat. Positive self-talk. The now habit system focuses on changing how you talk to yourself to change how you feel and act. The self-talk of procrastinators often unconsciously suggests and reinforces feelings of victimhood, burden, and resistance to authority. The images and feelings created by such language almost always result in procrastination as an act of assertiveness and rebellion. By learning to challenge and replace your negative internal dialogue, you will free yourself from attitudes about your worth and abilities that are inappropriate for your current age, intellect, and power. Power to choose. The author discusses how people can choose to overcome obstacles in their life, specifically in the area of work. When people are faced with a situation where they have to do something they don't want to do, they may go through a process of bargaining with God. This occurs when people convince themselves that if they just get over their illness or quit smoking, everything will be okay. Once someone makes this decision, they have the power to choose to do what is best for them and to overcome any obstacles. Replace "I have to" with "I choose to." Replace "I must finish" with "When can I start?" Replace "This project is so big and important" with "I can take one small step." Replace "I must be perfect" with "I can be perfectly human." Replace "I don't have time to play" with "I must take time to play." Importance of play. The author discusses the difference between those who take 3 to 13 years to complete their dissertations and those who complete them within 2 years or less. The main difference seems to be that those who take 3 to 13 years to complete their dissertations suffer more. People who finish their dissertation quickly are very dedicated to their leisure time and make it a high priority. They have to be physically active and spend time with friends to stay motivated. Children don't have any problems with motivation, but adults taught to be lazy often do because they are taught to feel guilty about playing. Guilt-free play can help adults overcome their procrastination. When we approach a difficult project, we typically think of tackling it in big chunks that require long periods of work in isolation. But the anticipation of extended isolation from friends and recreation is likely to promote procrastination. The effects of such work habits on your mind and body are similar to the experiences of prisoners in solitary confinement and subjects in sensory deprivation studies, who are wrapped like mummies to minimize sensation. Each of these activities drastically reduces physical movement and visual stimulation, making the mind ripe for any anxiety created by self-criticism, fear of abandonment, and threats of failure. The cycle of guilt-free play, quality work, and creative solutions goes like this: you enjoy guilt-free play, which leads to a sense of freedom and creativity. This leads to focused, quality work. This in turn leads to more enjoyable, guilt-free play. This cycle keeps going until you reach a high level of quality, creative work. The three major blocks that can cause people to procrastinate are the fear of being overwhelmed, the fear of failure, and the fear of not finishing. These blocks usually interact with each other and escalate any initial fears and stresses. Overcoming any one of the three quickens the destruction of the remaining blocks. The power of 30 minutes. The Unschedule is a system that asks you to aim at starting for just 30 minutes each day. That's right. By committing to start working for no more than 30 minutes each day, you can begin a program that turns you from a procrastinator to a producer. While 30 minutes may not seem like enough time to accomplish much on a large project, 30 minutes can be all the time in the world to solve a problem when you are intently focused. Think of the Unschedule as a time clock that you punch in as you start work and punch out when you take credit for your progress. You want to maintain an excitement about how much you've accomplished in a short period rather than anxiety about how much more there is to do. You can also use your 30-minute commitment as your deadline to motivate you to work more efficiently. You will look at your watch and be surprised at how much you've gotten done in a time that normally would seem so short. You can use a kitchen timer or a stopwatch to accurately record these periods of quality work. The important thing is that you got started. When you've overcome inertia, you've gotten yourself beyond the most difficult part. The Unschedule is a strategy that helps you to overcome your natural resistance to structure and authority and to productivity. The strategy tells you to do things like work fewer hours a week, exercise, and take days off from work. The Unschedule also tells you to make sure you have scheduled enough time for play. Work in flow state. Creativity is about tapping into your creative side when you need to do work. When you do this, you bypass some of the struggles and fear that can lead to procrastination. This technique, called working in the flow state, can help you do this more easily. The author explains how to shift into a creative, non-critical state and how to use focusing exercises to achieve this. The focusing exercise involves relaxing your body and mind and focusing on the present, which will help you overcome procrastination and get started on your project. When you are feeling stressed, your breathing may be constricted. Breathe deeply, hold your breath for a moment, and exhale slowly and completely. Imagine you are letting go of any remaining tension and that you are deciding to drift to a different level of mind. Now focus your attention on the feeling of the chair against your back, buttocks, and legs. Float down into the chair. Let it support you, as you let go of any unnecessary muscle tension. You can now let go of those muscles. Shift your attention to the feeling of your feet resting against the floor. Now let go of those muscles. As you let go, continue to exhale away any remaining tension. Just let go and allow your body to give you the gift of relaxation and support. Finally, remember, people who consider themselves failures have failed once and stay there. A failure wants a guarantee before starting a project that everything will go perfectly, without any problems. Successful people fail many times and bounce back, refusing to let anyone's failure define their worth. End of the summary. Thanks for listening.